I was at a botanical garden last September on a weekday morning when the crowds are thin and the paths are mostly empty, and you can walk at the pace of a man who is in no hurry and has nowhere to be. I go sometimes in the fall when the light is particular, low and amber and not trying to prove anything. I was sitting on a bench near the rose garden, which was past its peak but still present, when a man sat down at the other end of it. He had a small paper bag from the cafe near the entrance, and he opened it and took out a muffin and ate it with the methodical contentment of a man accustomed to his own company. He was in his early 70s, white-haired, a wedding ring on his left hand that was newer looking than the hand wearing it, if that makes sense, shinier, less worn into the skin. We nodded. After a while he said, "Nice morning for it." I agreed. He looked at the roses for a moment. Then he said, "I got married again 2 years ago. My kids still haven't forgiven me." He said it without complaint, almost as a weather report. This is the condition. This is what it is. His name was Leonard Cross, 71 years old. He had been married before, for 38 years, to a woman named Ruth, who had died of a stroke in 2019. He had married again, at 69, to a woman named Gloria, who was 63, and he had done so with open eyes and a full heart, and the consequence had been a fracture in his family that was 2 years old and still not healed. He grew up in Indiana, Fort Wayne. His father sold insurance and coached youth basketball on weekends, and Leonard told me about him with a warmth that was still immediate. A man who showed up, is how he put it. A man who was there. He told me he had tried to be that kind of father, and that his children's current silence on his phone was not because he had failed at that, but because he had succeeded at something else they had not asked him for. He went to Purdue, electrical engineering, graduated in 1975, worked for a utilities company called Consolidated Midwest for 33 years, the last 12 as a division manager. He told me the work had been good work, reliable, consequential, without glamour. He had liked that about it. He had built a life around reliability. He told me that was perhaps the irony. A man known for reliability had done the one thing his children had decided was unreliable. Ruth. He told me about Ruth with a love that was intact and that coexisted, he made clear, with what he felt for Gloria, in the way that real love is not displaced by more love, but simply joined by it. Ruth had been a librarian for 30 years. She had been funny in a dry, quiet way that took people by surprise. She had been, he said, the person in any room who listened most carefully and spoke least. And what she said when she spoke was usually the thing nobody else had been willing to say. He told me he had relied on that quality for 38 years without fully appreciating it, and had only understood its dimensions after it was gone. 3 children. A son, David, born in 1977. A daughter, Karen, born in 1980. Another son, Paul, born in 1983. He told me they were good people. He said that first, before anything else, with an emphasis that told me he needed it understood. They were good people. What was happening between them was not a story about bad people. It was a story about love that had calcified around grief in a way that left no room for what came after. Ruth had died in February of 2019. Sudden. She had been watching television and had turned to say something to Leonard, and then had stopped turning, and he had known immediately, and it had still taken him 15 minutes to move. He told me about those 15 minutes very briefly, and then moved on, which told me those 15 minutes were their own country that he was not ready to take visitors to. The first year was what the first year is. David and Karen and Paul circled him with the particular attentiveness of children who have lost one parent and are now frightened for the remaining one. He told me he had been grateful for the attention, and also, at moments, slightly suffocated by it. Not because they meant anything but good, but because grief is not a project and cannot be managed toward completion on a schedule that reassures the people watching. He met Gloria in the spring of 2021, 2 years after Ruth. He told me about meeting her with a directness that I found moving. No hedging, no apology, no prefatory establishment of how much he had grieved first. He met her at a community garden where they were both volunteers on Tuesday mornings. She was tending a bed of tomatoes. He was, he told me, doing a poor job with the beets. She had noticed the poor job with the beets and told him so with a candor he recognized immediately as a quality he had been missing for 2 years. Gloria had been widowed herself. Her husband, a man named Frank, had died of cancer in 2018. She had 2 daughters, both grown, both supportive of her in ways that Leonard told me he was genuinely glad of and that he understood his own children could not currently mirror. They dated for 8 months. He told me about those 8 months with a warmth that was uncomplicated and alive. Dinners, long walks, conversations that went where conversations go when the people having them are old enough to have stopped wasting time on the parts that don't matter. He told me Gloria made him laugh in a way he had not laughed in 2 years, and that the first time it happened, a real laugh, the unguarded kind, he had sat with the feeling afterward for a long time. Not guilty, just careful with it, like something new that he didn't want to jostle. He told his children he was seeing someone in October of 2021. Karen had cried. Not in front of him. She had left the phone call and called back 20 minutes later, and the cry had not been mentioned, but was present in her voice. David had been quiet in a specific way that Leonard recognized as the quiet of a man who has opinions he is exercising discipline about not expressing. Paul had said, "Dad, it hasn't even been 2 years." Leonard had said, "I know." And he had meant it not as a defense, but as an acknowledgement. "I know, and I am living my life anyway." He had not said the second part out loud, but they had understood it. He told David and Karen and Paul he was going to marry Gloria in June of 2022. The conversation with Karen lasted 2 hours. She told him it felt like a replacement. He told her it was not a replacement. She told him that was easy for him to say. He told her she was right that it was easy for him to say, and that he still meant it. She cried. He let her cry. He did not change his mind. David told him he was moving too fast. Leonard told him that at 69, he was not sure he had a pace that could be described as too fast. David told him that was selfish. Leonard told him he had spent 50 years not being selfish, and that he had decided he was allowed one thing for himself. He told me that exchange had been the hardest of his life, and that he was not sure he had handled it well, and that he had meant what he said anyway. Paul did not come to the wedding. This was the part Leonard told me with a stillness that had pain inside it. Paul had called 3 days before and said he could not be there. He said he was not ready. He said he hoped his father understood. Leonard had told him that he loved him and that the door was open whenever Paul was ready, and had then put the phone down and sat in the kitchen with Gloria's hand over his for a long time. David and Karen came. They were present and correct in the way that Leonard told me was worse, in certain ways, than Paul's honest absence. They congratulated him. They shook Gloria's hand with warmth that had effort visible behind it. They left early. Leonard told me he had watched their cars pull out of the parking lot and had felt, in that moment, the specific grief of a man who has done something right that has cost him something real. 2 years on. Paul had come to Christmas last year. It was the first time Leonard and Gloria and all 3 children had been in the same room. Leonard told me about that Christmas carefully, the way you describe a thing that was fragile and mostly held together. Paul had been polite to Gloria, not warm, polite. He had stayed 3 hours. He had hugged Leonard when he left. Leonard told me the hug had been real. He told me he was building on it. Karen called regularly. She was coming around, Leonard said, in the slow way that people come around when they have a genuine feeling that needs to move at its own speed rather than yours. She had asked Gloria about her garden once, on a call. Leonard had noticed. He had not pointed it out. David was furthest out. David had a formality now that Leonard told me sat uneasily on a relationship that had not had formality before. He told me he and David used to talk the way fathers and eldest sons talk, bluntly, about real things, with the ease of people who have long since figured out each other's rhythms. He told me that ease was gone, and he did not know yet if it would come back, and he had decided that waiting for it patiently was the only thing that was available to him. Gloria knew all of this. He told me she had gone into the marriage knowing it, and had never asked him to choose or to manage it differently, or to be anything other than honest about where things stood. He told me that quality in her, the not asking him to manage it, was one of the things he loved most. He told me Ruth had had a different version of that same quality, and that he had apparently been drawn twice to women who did not require him to perform emotions he did not have or conceal ones he did. I asked him if he had regrets. He finished the last of his muffin. He looked at the roses. He said, "I regret the pain it caused them. I will always regret that." He paused. "But I don't regret Gloria. And I've decided I'm allowed to hold both of those things at once, without one of them canceling the other." He folded the paper bag from the cafe into a small, neat square, the habit of a tidy man. He said Gloria was meeting him at the cafe in 20 minutes. They walked the gardens on Friday mornings. He said it the way you say something that is part of the fabric of a life. Not special, just real. Just what the day contained. He stood up and buttoned his coat. He looked at the ring on his hand. Not with doubt, with something that was closer to a man who has made peace with a complicated thing and has decided to keep moving. He said, "I hope they come the rest of the way. I believe they will." He said it like a man who has done the honest accounting and has arrived at hope not by avoiding the cost, but by paying it. He walked back up the path toward the cafe. I sat on the bench a while longer. The roses past their peak, but still present, and a man walking toward his wife in the low September light. That was not trying to prove anything, just there, just enough.